and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, before we get into the body of our meeting, we have a special presentation that will be led by our friend John Lummis. John Lummis is the president of the Upstate Alliance. And for those of you who don't know, the Upstate Alliance represents the upstate region of 10 counties that border I-85. And John explained it better, but his organization is responsible for attracting jobs to our area. And it's a big position, and we feel honored to also in these positions. John lives in our city. He's actually a city resident, and so that's more important. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Lummis. John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is this on? It is. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come and speak before you tonight. I am a proud resident of the city of Anderson. I grew up here, but lived almost my entire life here. So this is a special time for me to get to come and present to my home city council. The Upstate Alliance, we're the regional economic development group for the upstate 10 counties of South Carolina. And our role is to recruit new business and industries into the region, to market the region, and to bring together the public and private sector for business growth. So I'm just going to do a presentation tonight. I was going to do it for about an hour, but I think I'm going to do it for about 10 minutes. Just kidding, just kidding. So, there we go. Uh-oh. It's going a little slow here, guys. My apologies. There we go. Okay, so about over the last 5 years, and we don't have our numbers for 2024 yet, we're still tabulating those, but 2019 through 2023, about $11 billion in capital investment and 27,000 new jobs created in the upstate region. And you see a lot of these companies, some of these are in Anderson, and you're very familiar with those, but these are companies that both expanded and new ones that came in to the market over the last 5 years. So about 160 companies announced locations here in the last 5 years. About 37% of those projects were from international companies. We continue to be a real great area for attracting international business, as well as domestic business, but we have about 580 international companies in the upstate region, and that continues to be something that really makes us a little different from a lot of the other areas around the country. So just for explanation here, kind of how our process works. Our role is to do the marketing, the awareness, the identification of companies, and then working with our local economic developers at the county and city level to bring those companies in to the region. Our state Department of Commerce and our local economic development offices, both at the city of Anderson, Anderson County, and our other public sector partners, they really work on that recruitment and then the negotiation of incentives, and in some cases on the retention of existing business. The chambers of commerce and other groups like 10 at the Top, they really work on developing the business climate, nurturing, and really making the upstate region and city of Anderson, county of Anderson a great place. So that's kind of how we differentiate ourselves from the other organizations. We're more of the business development recruiting side of what's going on. So our mission is really pretty simple: market the upstate for global business investment and talent attraction. In our vision, 10-county area where businesses thrive and people can prosper through a diverse array of career opportunities. So we really want to go out and find a wide array of companies that can come here and employ the most people at the highest wages. So I know this chart is a little busy, but I really like this because it really explains what we do. Our role is to do lead generation, okay? We want to be out there finding leads across the country and across the world for new businesses coming in. We do this in a number of ways. We, go to trade shows in the U.S. and all over the world. We have specific international target markets. We do a lot in Europe, Canada. We've been to South Korea this year. I've got a slide that shows some of that in a little while. And then, of course, domestic recruiting as well. And then we find out companies that we think would have an interest in our region or match well the companies that are already here, and we do direct outreach to companies. We also do a lot of research, both for companies that we want to attract, but also companies that are looking at us, and we assist our local economic development partners with that research when they're filling out what we call a request for information. The way that would work, if a company is interested in our region, we'll contact them, they'll send us information, we'll then send that information out to our counties and cities, and they will respond to that with real estate sites, infrastructure answers, wage, labor data, all types of things, and we help them put that together, and then they send it back to the company. Then when the company makes a decision that they want to come back, it's their decision which of the communities that they want to visit and talk with. We do a lot of inbound events. We host what we call site consultants, which are individuals and groups of individuals that represent companies all over the world that are interested in locations in the U.S. So having those relationships is very important. We host a lot of international visitors here, and I've got some photos of some of those, and also, probably most importantly, hosting companies here, because if you can get a company to come to Anderson or another community in the upstate, we've got a good chance at selling them on the great things we have going on here. So we are a marketing organization. We do have a lot of information on our website, and we have a lot of data. We do digital marketing through social media and outreach. And then we actually still have paper collateral materials that we give people when we meet with them. And when you meet with companies, if you can still give them a map that shows you where you are and has some of your assets on it, people still like to have something made out of paper to look at, believe it or not. So a little bit of old school. We're also working on talent attraction, trying to attract talent to the companies that have jobs available here, and also working with existing talent within the region to help with training opportunities to get people into jobs. And we have a website called Move Up that we work with that. And then lastly, Team Upstate, that's really getting our private sector members and our public sector members to meet, to work together, because really we feel that economic development should be driven by the private sector in cooperation with the public sector, and in that way we have business and government work together. So our organization, we have about 236 what we call investors, and those are public sector groups like the City of Anderson, like Anderson County, like others that are members of our group. But also we have about 215 private sector companies, and this goes from across the realm of construction companies, architecture firms, accounting firms, attorneys, anyone that wants to get businesses to move here so they can work with them. And so our funding comes, the majority of it is from the private sector. We almost the same amount from the public sector, and then we also get matching funds from the state each year for marketing. Again, these are our public sector cities and counties that are members of our group. So how do we target prospects? One of the big things we do is leverage our allies. We work with the South Carolina Department of Commerce and other economic development councils throughout the state to try to find leads and to work with them on those. Again, trade shows, cultivate leads in what we call our pipeline. This is the listing of companies that we've contacted that have indicated their possible interest in the region. We have, like I said, industry inbound events and then outbound missions. And the Korea one, that's South Korea. I won't like to always make that. That was supposed to be kind of a joke there. But we've been to other areas. We went to Italy and Switzerland this year, and we will continue to do that in 2025. So international engagements are a big thing. As I've mentioned before, we had the Czech Republic ambassador here last year. That was kind of a big thing. It was our first company from the Czech Republic that are located in the upstate, and the ambassador decided he would come visit them. The UK Consul General, the UK has an ambassador here, but they also have Consul General offices, and we have good friendships with them, and she basically came and talked about trade between the US and the UK after the Brexit had occurred when they're not in the EU anymore. Very interesting. We also were part of the Michelin Cities group when they came in. I had the opportunity to present to all 170 of them that were here, 180 of them, which was pretty incredible opportunity. I want to thank the mayor, council, and others for including me in on that. And they got to we showcased ICAR, which is Clemson University International Center for Automotive Research, toured them through there, and I think they were pretty impressed. As I mentioned, we work with a lot of site consultants, and we bring them in to our region, and we offer the opportunity for our local economic developers to participate in that. Andrew has participated in those events before, and then our folks at the county level in the other cities. And then we always take them over to BMW so they can drive the cars on the test track, and that's a pretty popular thing. And hopefully we do that last, so maybe they'll remember, that. So building our pipeline. Last year, we did 345 separate presentations about the upstate, and this could have been at our office, it could have been when we were traveling abroad. We got 207 new leads in our pipeline, and these are companies that have expressed an interest in some form or fashion in the upstate that we're following up with. And then we sent out 63 requests for information, which are formal requests for sites and data from our local economic developers, and these go to the City of Anderson and our other local government partners. So over the last 5 years, we've added about 934 leads to our pipeline, and Matt, if you add those numbers real quick, you'll find that it equals 934. Matt and I graduated from Hannah together, and I know what a scholar he was. So Anderson Spotlight, getting quotes from businesses here that are talking about this. This was in a publication by Site Selection Magazine, and really shows how the community supports business coming in. And this is from a business that came in to Anderson, moved here from Seattle. So for sustained success, one of the things that you have to have is continue to have product for businesses to go in. On the county level, spec buildings, things of that nature. On the city level, buildings like what y'all have in the downtown and other places that folks can move in. And then the other key is workforce. Building the workforce through your K-12, through your technical colleges, through all the ways that we try to improve success for people is so important, because the number one question that a prospect is always going to ask when they come in is going to be about workforce. So y'all are doing a really good job, Anderson County and the City of Anderson, with this. I know the career centers at the 2 career centers for districts 1 through 5 are just excellent. And then the partnerships with Tri-County Tech. So I feel like Anderson City and County are doing a good job with that. I mentioned a little bit about our talent attraction initiative, Move Up, and that's basically, what we're trying to do is bring more talent here and then train more talent. So if y'all have an opportunity, go on our website, moveupstatesc.com, and look at that. It's got lots of information about Anderson and the other communities, and it talks about great reasons to move here and also training opportunities for people that already live here to go and get upskilled. And that's just a page from our Move Up website. Okay. That's all I got. I'd be glad to take questions. Matt's going to get me now, so I got to be ready.
Thank you, John, and we appreciate the work that your organization does for our community. Question, one or two, anybody? These guys pay attention pretty well.
Somebody
so-
ask me something, please.
One question. What's your handicap?
7.2 right now.
7.2.
Here, I got one. John, can you speak a little bit about this Charlanta corridor that we hear
Yeah.
between Atlanta and Charlotte, and how we're kind of positioned right in the middle?
We are positioned perfectly, and we do call it, we say we're the center of Charlanta. And we actually use that when Amazon HQ2 was looking, we did a proposal for them. And we utilized that term. We actually did a website on that. But I really think that the growth, we're one of the fastest growing areas in the entire country. You see all the people moving here. South Carolina was once again the top state for new people moving in. U-Haul did a survey and it showed that we had the highest percentage of people moving into our state. So people are going to continue to move here. And we're going to continue to grow. And our advantage is we've got the manufacturing, the innovation, the technology that's here. So we're going to continue to get those great jobs. And I think with the growth in the workforce, we're going to really be able to take advantage of that. But Charlotte and Atlanta definitely help us with that growth. But we're on the map.
Very good.
Good.
Thank you.
John, I appreciate it. And Ms. Stewart?
Well, I was just going to ask, since you represent a 10-county area, I guess all of us have a stake in it. Is the city one of your biggest stakeholders in the alliance?
Well, I live in the city, so of course.
From a financial, for funding your organization?
Oh, well, no, it is so important that y'all fund. Y'all's level of funding is not as great as, say, a Greenville County or an Anderson County, but what y'all provide, hopefully y'all get a good benefit out of that, and I really appreciate the support. One of the things I think, and I think Andrew will attest, is that we have local developer committee and he attends those meetings, and I think he gets in with the process about what's going on within the upstate, and also y'all are exposed to all the opportunities that are coming to the upstate through when we send out requests for proposals and everything. So hopefully it's a good group for us to be involved, for y'all to be involved in, just to keep up with what's going on in the region. The mayor's been on our executive committee. Kyle comes to our meetings and has been a representative for what we do, Andrew, David. So I feel like Anderson is well positioned by being part of our group, and I really, really thank you for what y'all do
As
for
long as
me.
we got you to keep promoting us, we're all right.
That's right. You remember that, you remember where I live, so, I want my hometown to do well.
Thanks, John. Is there any one thing in the Anderson area that make us really stand out and want these companies to really say, Anderson is where I want to be?
Well, I think the downtown is great, and I think that's one of the things that really attracts people when they come and look into a region. I think that, one of the things that's pretty amazing is Anderson University and the growth that we've had with that. And that is a real amenity. And Lake Hartwell, I've always said that, that brings a lot of things. I mean, Anderson's in the perfect location to continue to grow. And as the Charlanta corridor continues to thrive, Anderson is in really good position for that. It's just, figuring out how you want to grow and what that growth is going to look like. But I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world doing what I do, because we got so many advantages and great things that are going to occur in the next 25 years here.
Thank you, Ms. Lummis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Have a good day.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Before we get it, to the body of our meeting. We had the privilege of entertaining about 13, 14 kids earlier today, and they also saw a fire truck presentation that the chief led. But we have Troop 41, and they're out of First Pres, and appreciate you guys being here. And I don't know, Tim is the ringleader here. I don't know if Tim wants to say anything about the troop, or I put him on the spot. He's speechless.
Cub Scouts learning about your civic duty, and thanks for hosting us tonight.
Thank you. And I appreciate you guys coming. If y'all want to sneak out before the meeting, I know you've been here for a while. So thank you. Have a good evening, guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that was my old pack.
That was your old pack?
41, yes.
41 out of First Pres.
Never made it past.
So the minutes of our December 9th meeting have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Not hearing any. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
First by Mr. Harvin.
Second.
Second by Mr. Steele. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of December 9th passed unanimously. We have two items of old business, and the first item is request second reading of ordinance 25-02 to rezone 1300 Glen Street from HI Heavy Industrial to NC Neighborhood Commercial. Mr. McEwen.
Mayor and council, I get to say this, that these items rolled over from last year, our meeting from last year, so it is rolling over to second reading. The Planning Commission has considered this. It was moved forward by council on first reading, and then here we are on second reading. The first two items are a rezoning, and it's actually what we call a downgrade in rezoning. So going from a more intensive use to a less intensive use. And Maurice McKenzie, our Planning and Development Director, will go over the details of each of these requests. Mr. McKenzie.
Hey, thank you. As City Manager mentioned, this is a downzoning from heavy industrial to neighborhood commercial. The applicant is requesting to rezone this vacant, it's a commercial style building, it's been vacant for a while, to ultimately renovate it for the use of a community-oriented coffee shop or a cafe. And the property, as you're familiar with, is very close to the old Anderson Mill site and also close to a leg of our multi-use trail that's planned. And according to the applicant, the area is not quite ready to support the type of development that he's proposing. He needs to see the multi-use trail come to fruition and also see the redevelopment of the old Anderson Mill site start to make it more feasible for him. But in the interim, it's the intent of the applicant to explore the feasibility of converting the space for residential purposes, so there will be a productive use on the site as market conditions start improving for him to operate his business there. And at the last meeting, we had a good bit of discussion regarding the neighborhood commercial zoning classification, whether or not it allowed single family. I mentioned at the meeting that it's kind of gray in our zoning ordinance. A portion of it leads you down the track that it is allowed. There's a little section there, it's a little gray. So incorporated the services of our city attorney to research this more and also come up with an interpretation. And he determined that in a neighborhood commercial district, single family and multiple types of residential uses are allowed in that district. So with that being taken care of, the next piece to it would be meeting residential building codes. Any conversion of a commercial building to residential will require meeting the residential building codes, and that has not been explored at this time by the applicant. So we'll see what comes out of that from a feasibility standpoint. But this did come before you at your December 9th meeting. You approved it on first reading. You're awaiting that interpretation that I just went over a moment ago. So the Planning Commission also recommended approval of this, and as Mr. McEwen mentioned a moment ago, this is a downzoning, and there's a good bit of industrial land in this general area, and we discussed at one of the council meetings that it's probably pretty likely that we'll see more of these requests for commercial or for mixed-use developments coming to us in the future to downzone it from industrial uses. But this is coming to you tonight on second reading.
Thank you. I'll open it up for, and we did have questions, and thank you for answering that bigger question. But are there any other comments, questions?
I do have some questions.
Mr. Stewart, then Mr. Harvey.
You know, this is at the corner, you know, as you turn up, I think the gentleman was here last time talking about he wanted to live there while, I guess, the development moves forward or whatever, but I guess I'm just still kind of concerned and maybe, you know, so is there not I guess, a residential, zoning to allow for residential? When I think commercial, I'm thinking about commercial, not residential. You know, you got multifamily, you got single family, but then you got your commercial district. And I know he wants to live there. I think why he waits for a coffee shop and then maybe turn around and put it from residential back to commercial again. You know, I don't know. I feel very uncomfortable with that for some reason, and just want to maybe get a bit clearer understanding. You know, that code, it just a commercial just allows for somebody to have a single family residence in it for a commercial zoning. Like,
Yeah, so keep in mind with the tiers of the zoning ordinance that some of these are umbrellas. So essentially, it's going to allow multiple uses within that, even though the terminology is commercial, but it's going to allow multiple uses within that umbrella of the zoning code. So it's really, as you go down the tier of what it is, of heavy industrial being the top tier and then working your way down. But of course, there's many other things that are allowed in it. It doesn't have to just be labeled commercial or just labeled residential.
but does he have, is the parking there for residential now? Because it's right there in the curve. You know, as soon as you come down and turn, you know, is it suitable for a residential, for parking situation and the whole 9 yards? Have we looked into that?
Right now, no, because he has not explored the feasibility of even converting this commercial building into residential for a couple of years or whatever the market conditions will warrant. So he will need to explore all those options, and if it doesn't meet our residential building code, then it wouldn't be allowed.
But I thought I understood last time he said that he is getting ready to make it residential right now, because he bought the place and he wants to live in the place right now until market conditions changes so that it can become commercial.
That's his wish. That's his wish, but he still has to comply with our residential building codes, and he has not explored that at this time.
But he's going to live. But he's living there.
He wishes to live there.
He's not currently.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, Mr. Harvey?
So I went and looked at it, and I know the adjoining property owner, if you're facing the property to the right, that is industrial. The question I had, I got to thinking about it. I mean, you know, it's from a parking standpoint. I mean, the footprint of the building is on a minimal part of the fenced area that I assume the fenced area is what he's purchased. So there's tons of room behind the property and actually in front of it. But the question I have, so he's going to rezone, his request is to rezone it to neighborhood commercial. So it will be neighborhood commercial, not residential. And under that umbrella, he can renovate that building to be commercial and residential, something like, I assume, on a much smaller scale of on the corner of Church Street and Main Street. There's an office on the front, a wine bar on the back, and an apartment up top. How is that zoned?
Central Business District. Yeah,
And-
so that's.
So that's the
correct.
umbrella
Multi-use
it
building.
falls under.
Right, and in
Correct.
this case, it is my understanding, and applicant's not here tonight,
Yeah.
by the way, he was out of the country, but it's my understanding he doesn't want to do both at the same time. He wants to do one and then later come back and do it for commercial purposes, not do both at the same time, because when you do that, it adds another layer of building codes.
But if he's
fire
neighborhood
separation.
commercial, he can live in a neighborhood commercial. So, I mean,
Yeah. And if you just made it, so the key thing, the example you gave, which is most of downtown's situation, a multi-use building.
Yeah.
It actually, what it does there is it triggers, and the fire department really appreciates this because it triggers the highest level of building codes for separation between what's a different use to another. So you have a restaurant to a residential. So it's very intensive building codes on that, which ultimately protects the building, the public better. And so, and that's what Mr. McKenzie's saying is that he hasn't designed it or have the a design professional go through to say how he would approach and make this a residential structure, but he will have to do that. And so right now it's just acquiring the property. He has the right to go through the rezoning process, and he's requesting you put this label on it.
And it appeared to me when I was riding that area that on Railroad Street, it looks like somebody's inhabited a commercial building there too, and it's a residence. I mean, that'd be the nearest adjoining property on Railroad Street.
We'll have to see if it's registered as that. Might have to inspect it.
Ms. Martinez?
Yeah, so if I just go back to the request, I do think it's a win from a downgrade from heavy industrial to neighborhood commercial. I can understand Councilman Stewart's concerns over maybe the use of the property, but for me, I think the intent of what I heard from the applicant was it's just one step at a time that he wants to follow the rules according to how we have it written in the laws. I think I'm fine with that as long as he goes through the proper procedures. But for me, I think just the concentration of getting that downgraded, I think is an ultimate win for the city.
Good. Anything else? Ms. Stewart?
That section of the ordinance, do we have what is that section of the ordinance that was a gray area? Do you know how it reads right now?
It says residential dwellings subject to RM10 guidelines, and there was a question, does that mean it's just for multifamily? But single-family residential is allowed in the multifamily standards. So we wanted some clarification on that.
Anything else, guys?
I like the idea of rehabbing the area, bringing in the lower classification. I just think it kind of fits the note of maybe a trend, but it gets rid of that light industrial as well. So.
Mr. Roberts?
Maybe just a comment. There's no guarantee that he'll follow through with any of this.
That's
But regardless, the downzoning is not a bad thing. So for that reason alone, I'm in favor of it.
I've sat on this council in the past, and we've downgraded things thinking it's for the best purposes, and once we rezone things, we wound up with problems on sites in the past, and it's just, I'm just, concerned, that this may not be, just, once it's rezoned, we can't go back and change it again, unless somebody come back and petition. It is what it is, and I just want to make sure, that the intent of what's going to be done is going to be done there. I have a little bit of optimism about it. I'm just very hesitant.
If I will say one more thing on this too, is that heavy industrial allows for a lot of other things as well. And Maurice, you can help me out on this specifically, but for example, you had to, those court cases on this, but you had to be able to allow sexual-oriented businesses to be located in some districts in the zoning code. It couldn't just be banned outright. And so where cities end up putting those in the LI and the HI zoning classifications, knowing that you have less of those areas. I know that our code includes it in what, LI? Does it?
Yeah, LI, HI, correct.
Yes, so it's both in LI and HI. And so and then how I see it is that, from my perspective, the more areas that you can remove heavy industrial and light industrial from within your city that you truly don't want to market, as Mr. Lummis said in his presentation, to an actual incoming company to set up shop, that's a benefit.
And to that point, we don't have a lot of manufacturing companies within the city limits of the city. just a handful. And so, but anyway, good comments. Any other questions, comments?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve this on second reading to rezone 1300 Glen Street from heavy industrial neighborhood commercial.
First by Mr. Martinez,
Second.
second by Dr. Thompson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have one opposition, Mr. Stewart. A second item of old business is request reading of ordinance 25-03 to rezone 1201 Gatson Street from LI Light Industrial to RM10 Multifamily Residential. Mr. McKenzie.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This is another downzoning request. The applicant wishes to rezone the .61 acre parcel to RM10 multifamily residential so they can subdivide it into 3 lots to build single-family detached dwellings. And there was a commercial type building on the site a while back, but it has since been demolished. And again, same theme with the residential uses and things like that in industrial districts. Existing LI does not allow residential uses except as a guardhouse for an industrial site. That's the only way a residential use could be allowed in light industrial, so that's the purpose for their rezoning. But the RM10 zoning classification allows single-family dwellings to be on lots that are at least 5,000 square feet. R5 also permits single-family houses on 5,000 square foot lots, but since this is across the street from RM10 zoning, it makes more sense to, from a consistency standpoint, to rezone it to RM10 because it does allow them to subdivide into 3 single-family lots. So this comes to you tonight on second reading. It came before you at your December 9th meeting and you approved it on first reading.
Thank you. We did. We had discussion. I think the applicant was at that meeting and answered some of our questions, but applicant's not here, I don't think. And I'll open it up for discussion. Council. Mr. Stewart?
So in this case, again, I know that, I guess the reason why the RM10 is because that's what there is there, but is RM5, is that less intensive, R5 less intensive than RM10?
R5 is less intensive from a standpoint that in RM10, and when you take into consideration the size of this lot, they could probably put a duplex or 2 on the property. But that's really about the only difference between RM10 and R5 single-family residential in this case because of the lot size.
And so the reason why we're going with this one is just because of the consistency of the surrounding.
That's right. It wouldn't be considered as much of a spot zone, in which we try to avoid, whenever we can. So RM10 still allows them the opportunity to build 3 houses. So they're in the process now of getting all of that surveyed and finalized.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And just to confirm, I think I brought this up the last time on first reading, those 2 parcels of light industrial next to it are actually non-conforming residential, right?
That's right, Mr. Steele. They're just non-conforming. They're residential uses. Yes, sir.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm that.
Anything else, guys? Have a motion?
So move the motion.
First
Yes.
by Mr. John Roberts,
Yes, sir.
second by the Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Got 2 items of new business. The first item is request consideration of a resolution to the South Carolina Department of Transportation, SDOT, authorizing safety improvements and traffic calming measures on Boulevard Road. Mr. McEwen?
Bellevue Road.
Bellevue, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. So from time to time, this is a state SCDOT maintained and owned road. DOT will have plans for some of their roads regarding traffic, roundabouts, different configurations. They'll ask the local governing body to adopt a resolution just as a courtesy, making you aware of it and also endorsing moving forward with the project. So this is a unique project in our area. It's not in other places. It's very, very common in Spartanburg, Greenville, Greer, and across the entire state. And of course, this is a big trend in the United States, is what's called a road diet, or changing the outlay of the layout of the road. And so what brought this upon several years ago, this road was on their list for repaving. And as part of that, their traffic engineers looked at it. They brought it to us. We actually brought it to council at a retreat last year and mentioned it. And I think we might have mentioned it the year before that as well, that this was an ongoing assessment by SCDOT. They intend to repave the road, and at some point, this is what they recommend for a very underutilized 4-lane road. With that, that's just the intro. I want to get into some more details here. We have Maurice McKenzie kind of hit some other top line items here, and then our transportation planner and director, Mike Gaze, here too, and he's going to go over some details of the actual design. Maurice, did you have anything to add before Mr. Mike?
Yeah, let's go over a couple of things. Just that, we are always working to improve mobility and connectivity for bicycle and pedestrian activity, and also just to make roads safer for that matter. And Bellevue Road has been identified in the bicycle and pedestrian plan as a key component to enhance that network. And that plan was adopted in 2014 after going through a public process. So this has been identified in our plan for over 10 years now. And as Mr. McEwen mentioned, this road is scheduled for paving, so any type of new striping is considered when a road it gets repaved, obviously. And so that's the reason for the timing of this. And the plan is to take the 4-lane road, which is a very wide bit of asphalt, Bellevue Road is, as you know, but to reduce it to 1 lane in either direction, have a center turn lane, and then with the remaining asphalt out there, bicycle lanes can be incorporated on either side of the road. And it's not just for bicycle lanes, it's also for traffic calming as well, by reducing the width with the extra striping. So that's a key component to this as well. And the latest traffic counts on Bellevue Road are less than 6,000 vehicles per day. And the road is currently designed, with its 4-lane section, to accommodate well over 25,000 vehicles per day. So it's basically kind of overbuilt by today's standards with the traffic count. And the city worked with the DOT to develop a road diet consisting of 2 12-foot travel lanes in either direction, a 12-foot center lane, and 6-foot bicycle lanes on either side. And as Mr. McEwen mentioned, this was discussed at a previous council retreat, so we did reach out to the DOT, and they designed the restriping plan, so it's been approved by them. So what we're doing tonight is bringing to you a official request by resolution that will go to the DOT, authorizing them to move forward with that. And that's where we are. And one thing I was going to mention, that with the road diet in place, I mentioned a minute ago that the road currently can hold 25,000 vehicles. The traffic count is under 6,000 vehicles. With the road diet, the road can still handle over 15,000 cars per day. So still a significant amount based on what's out there now. But I will yield to Michael Gay, who will provide more information regarding traffic calming and give you some data regarding other local roads in the city that you may find interesting. So.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Before we get started with talking specifically about Bellevue, I want to talk about road diets in general and their benefits. When you talk about reducing speed, you reduce speed by what's called, a fancy term, speed differential reduction. That's a fancy term that transportation folks will throw around for. There's no other lane for you to pass anybody with, so you can't race past anybody and cut them off. You can't have that downhill speed that you see sometimes on Bellevue. They also reduce vehicle-to-vehicle conflicts. So when you have a 4-lane road, there are 6 conflict points, and a conflict point is someplace where 2 cars can collide. When you have the 3-lane section, there are only 3 conflict points, so you cut those in half. You're also adding connectivity, as Marie spoke about, by adding the bike lane. There's both a transportation and a recreation use to that. Let's not forget there's a park on Bellevue, so I suspect that there will be some bike travel in those directions towards that park. And one good thing about these bike lanes, a standard bike lane is 4 feet, these are 6 feet. So now on to Bellevue specifically. As Marie said, our current count is 5,700 cars on that road. It's 4 lanes and it's 1 mile long. FHWA says that roads under 10,000 cars a day that are 4 lanes are excellent candidates for road diets because they have likely no effect on capacity. Now, Bellevue is what we call a major collector. Now, this is a designation given to roads. And a major collector is a road that connects local streets to arterial streets. So what that means is all your neighborhood streets, they connect to a collector, and that collector leads them to a bigger street that holds more traffic and gets them to yet a bigger street, to your commercial areas, to wherever you want to go. Reed Road is also a major collector. Bellevue is 4 lanes. Reed Road is 2. Bellevue, again, 5,700 cars, 1% truck traffic. Reed Road, 9,200 cars, 2% truck traffic, 2 lanes. So here you've got 40% more traffic on 2 lanes than we have on a current 4-lane road. So what we've got is just overcapacity here. To move it up a notch, if you look at Concord Road, which is considered a minor arterial, that's 1 step above our collectors. That is a 2-lane road. 12,200 cars a day on a 2-lane road with 2% truck volume. So this is kind of the idea as we move forward as to why we looked at this project and why it was identified, because we see an opportunity here to really increase our connectivity with these bike lanes, as well as a traffic calming measure, making it safer for all the residents there and those who use Bellevue. I'll take any questions.
Appreciate it, Mr. McKenzie. Thank you for the information. What I'd like to do before we talk about it on council, to request that if there's anybody in the public that would like to speak against this resolution, if they would come to the podium, tell us who you are and where you live, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Well, I'm Ronnie Whitfield. I live at 3006 Bellevue Road, and I think some of you are familiar with me because this is not my first rodeo down here. I'm here today because I just found out last night about these plans. And we went down this road a good many years ago with the community. We discussed the bike lanes. We discussed the changing of the center lane and all, and nobody in our neighborhood wanted it. We rallied together over several things that had to do with rezoning, and that was also an issue that we dealt with during that time. I just made a brief check today on Bellevue and Belle Chase with the residents that I could find at home. Most of them were working, and out of the ones that I talked with, which was about 7 to 8 houses, is all I could find at home with cars gone and work. Nobody there knew about it, and they certainly were interested in it. My mission or goal tonight, I would like to have a stay or a tabling to give the residents a time to have some input. They deserve to know what's happening to their street. And a lot of those people have lived there for a long time. It's the only house I ever bought. I don't know if it's as good of investment as I thought I had made after all the fighting I've had to do to maintain it as a residential, because we fought commercial for 18 years trying to invade, and we finally ended up with Belle Chase there. We have tractor trailer trucks now. I photographed 7 on a Saturday morning before 11 o'clock coming up the road. That's what's been tearing our road up, the tractor trailer trucks coming up there. I've had significant damage to vehicles and had to have them repaired because of the potholes. I'm literally excited to no end that they're going to repave the road, but make it smaller and put bicycles on it. When I mentioned that to the people today, they laughed. Who in the world would want to ride a bicycle on Bellevue? You know, we don't ever see bicycles on Bellevue. You say, well, we don't have a bicycle lane. They would be too scared to drive if they got over there on it because of the way the traffic is. I think we've failed to try to provide some traffic control there because everybody speeds coming down through there. We call it the Bellevue 500. I have to back out of my driveway. I'm a second house on the left coming up the hill. And when I have visitors, I stand out in the road and wave the traffic off because they will not stop, slow down, or change lanes and move over. They used to monitor that road a lot, and they used to monitor Greenville Street. I talked with the chief of police about it this past year. He told me they didn't have enough patrol cars and officers to do that anymore. You hardly ever see anybody stopped monitoring traffic down at the park or on Greenville Street anymore. Greenville Street just wild and crazy too. When y'all talk about decreased in traffic, any of y'all live on either one of those areas close to it? Do you see an increase or decrease, you think?
I think it depends on the time of day. I think if it's around school time, you'll see some traffic. I think through the day it's pretty open.
But increased traffic over the years has definitely happened. I just heard we're the largest growing place there is. My goodness, the traffic's got to be picking up. The schools are being built. The houses are being built. We're expecting an overflow of people coming here. And we're downsizing the traffic for Bellevue and putting not pedestrians, but bicyclers on the highway. If you think that they will come down that road and use the turn lane for the way it's designed instead of passing and getting to where they want to go quicker, you better have somebody over there controlling traffic. There's going to be potential for more accidents than what we got, because right now, when they get up behind somebody's driving too slow, they switch lanes and take off. When they can't, they blow the horn. I won't even walk across Bellevue because the traffic comes down so fast. They're all speeding. But the people need to have input. I can't imagine that's too much to ask to let us have a public hearing and have an opportunity to notify the people. You mentioned the connectors coming in. They'd be interested in that too, because, you know, that there's not going to be as much traffic there. They probably going to want to find other ways to get out of there. And Belle Chase, they got one way out. I think it's really going to be difficult for them. And I talked with one gentleman over there today when I told him about it. He said, contact me if there's a public meeting. He really was concerned. He said, I'll organize this whole community to come and talk about it.
Is there anything else, Mr. Whitfield, different than what you mentioned?
No, there's not. But my goal is to give us a chance to notify the community.
Thank you. We'll note that. I guess my goal is to see if anybody else in the audience would like to speak against it, the resolution itself.
I'd like to speak in favor.
I'll switch to favors. Anybody would like to speak in favor of it? State your name and
my name is Michael Gardner. I'm here representing Palmetto Cycling Coalition, also the Upstate Run Club, and the Friends of the Electric City Trail. Many of you guys know me. I've been coming here for the last 3 years pushing this connectivity topic, sometimes a little too far, but I think in this particular case, aligning with the 2015 unanimous passing of that connectivity bike and pedestrian plan. We are 100% in agreement with this. I've actually had a conversation with 3 of our members that live in that particular area, and they were in favor of it as well. And in addition to that, the Upstate Run Club does run from downtown Anderson down through Bellevue many times throughout the year, and we would appreciate this change in design as well. So I wanted to say thank you for your efforts, and we support this 100%.
Appreciate it. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Chris Corley. I own a property on Bellevue Road, 2311 Bellevue Road. My best friend and his wife live across the street from that and have for 25 years. And so I've been on that road about every single weekend for 25 years, going to their house, visiting them. Been to the park many times with the kids and stuff. My kids have grown up with their kids on that road. And ever since the east-west connector has been built, traffic has decreased significantly on the road. I think that's one of the reasons why that road was a major cut through before the east-west connector was built. It now does not have that. Cars do drive pretty fast on that road. They do, I agree with the gentleman here that they do kind of have the Bellevue 500 on there. But as most of his remarks did actually support what was being said, is this would help slow that down. This would actually allow it to be more of a neighborhood road. The park there would be utilized a little bit more as well, with actually people being able to ride bicycles there onto the park and not. It just doesn't need that much traffic on that road anymore, so anything that would actually discourage that would help also. I'm also a real estate agent, have been for about 12 years. I've sold some houses on that road. I've shown many of houses on that road, and time again, that is the #1 complaint about the road, is that they love the house, but they hate the 4-lane road. They just absolutely hate it, which is diminishing the values on that road. I believe you talked about anyone on there that is concerned about the value of their house, they would know that that would up the value. You got that beautiful park there that's underutilized. There's not a lot of children, a lot of people that have children want to move on that road strictly because it's a 4-lane road. I think reducing it to 2 lanes, encouraging bicycles will encourage families, will encourage younger people. And those are some of the few actual starter homes that are in that price range that people could still afford to buy coming out. I used to be in banking years ago, and the lending and institutes is, new homes, $300,000 now. I mean, these houses are in the 200 to 250 range. Some of them still need to be updated. But even updated, they're at max maybe about 275. A couple that are well over 300 are much larger on that area. But the fact of the matter is, it's going to bring those houses back to the Anderson community to actually be what they should be, which is more of a neighborhood feeling, more of a family feeling to it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? I'll turn it over to council now. Any questions, Mr. Steele?
I just have some comments. I really think that this is an ideal plan to address many of the concerns in the area that I've heard from many people. And actually, again, many of the concerns that Mr. Whitfield raised in his comments. He complained about traffic, people going too fast. We've had DOT tell us this is going to slow down traffic. He said people are scared to bike on the lane because the traffic is there. This is going to provide dedicated bike lanes for people to come down and utilize the road and get to that wonderful park that I've driven down Bellevue a lot. Again, it's been a cut through. I grew up driving through it as a cut through before the connector came in, and that park has always, for my lifetime, been underutilized. I think this is going to help provide some of that connectivity. It's going to give access, hopefully, to people from that neighborhood to be able to more safely access that park. As part of that, I hope the DOT would consider designs, maybe some walkways across Bellevue at the place where the park is, to provide even more access, because it can be difficult for those neighborhoods on I guess it's the northeast side of Bellevue, to get across and get to utilize that park. But I think this road diet and the bike path is a good place to start. And I think that it really will serve even the interest that Mr. Whitfield raised in his comments opposing the change. With that, I would also just encourage the city, as we continue to look at other roads that are being repaved, as they come up for repaving, to consider, if there are other changes that are going to make neighborhoods safer, traffic patterns more safer, and promote that connectivity that will allow people to run, bike, access our roads and parks in different ways than they have traditionally. So I certainly think it's a good project, and I support it.
Mr. Martinez?
I think this is a good conversation of why we have 2 readings. I think it's important for us to have an opportunity to speak to the constituents that live in these areas. I'll tell you specifically, for those that are watching, those that are here, seat 1, 2, and 3 are all very close to this area. Seat 6 may have a portion of it that's relatively close as well. Here's my perspective on this. I'd have a lot of concern if this was an area where I felt we were going to still have a lot of new development. I think with new development, we have to be careful because we don't really know what the final product is going to look like as far as cars in the street. For me, I think we kind of know what Bellevue looks like and what it's been. And I'm of the opinion that I do feel like there needs to be something different on that road, where I mostly would say we need to do more widening and we need to add more lanes. I think it has been used as a cut through for so long that it truly needs to be more of a residential area. My wife grew up adjacent to that street, and I think her sister's got a few tickets on that Bellevue, so that being a 500, she certainly has been a testament to that. But I think that as we think about connectivity, and we know that the goal is to be a community that you can exercise, and this is a pretty healthy area where we have a lot of walkers and bikers. This is a resource that we can provide to those constituents that not only live in that area, but would like to go somewhere that they feel would be safe to be able to do so. So with that, I'll make the motion on the first reading that we pass this and then have openings to listen to other constituents that are.
It's just a resolution.
Oh, resolution. Oh,
It's not
then I'm not making a motion. I'm just saying I like it.
Yeah. So you're making a motion to pass the resolution?
Yeah.
Do I have to say?
What does a resolution do
He
now?
Mayor, he may have recalled and just said he's in favor of it, but not made the motion yet.
Oh, I'll make the motion of
I'm
it.
sorry.
I didn't know if there was a motion or not a motion on it, but I'd like to make a motion. So
Okay.
do we have 2 readings on this or not?
No, just a resolution.
Just a
Oh,
resolution, but it does require a motion on it, yes.
All right, let me hold that back then, because I think there's other folks that like to speak.
I know, and this may be for Mr. Gay, I know when we spoke about, the traffic on Bellevue being 4-lane, and then we compared it kind of to Concord Avenue, Concord, and how it holds more cars, and it's a 2-lane road there. But again, I know when I come down Concord a lot, depending on when you hit it, the traffic's awful there, and I don't know if it's because of the growth there, unanticipated growth, especially when you go down to Concord trying to turn on Reed Road at the red light in front of the church there. It backs up forever in a day there, and then there's a side street where residents have to turn back to the right to get to their neighborhood, and it's just a real cluster there, and I'm just concerned too, just have some concerns is that if we narrow down Bellevue to 2 lanes from a 4-lane, is it going to create the same bottleneck that's created on Concord Avenue right now? And I know there's different, but I use that because you used the comparison, so I just wanted to kind of put that out there and maybe get some thoughts on that.
Yes, as I think Maurice said in his presentation, even with the road diet, it should still carry 15,000 cars with ease. That's what it would be designed for. With a road diet, with the traffic counts we've seen, today before I came to the meeting, I looked up every traffic count on Bellevue DOT did they had it posted from 2006 to 2023. The highest traffic count was 7,000. The lowest was 4,100. So we know now, we've got roughly 20 years of evidence now that we're not going to see more than 7,000 cars on this road, because we haven't. The area is pretty much built out. So at this point, I think it's safe to say that we're very confident in this project and have been for a long time.
And what's the road, just curious, what's the count on Concord that you referred to, is, from common? Is it 10,000 a day? Is it 15,000? What, you know, as you come down
Concord
Concord?
had 9,200 cars a day.
92.
But you're correct about the intersection. I mean, the issue is everybody's coming down, they're taking a right on Reed Road, making that cut. It doesn't have a turn lane there. I know that's in our transportation improvement plan. It mentions that intersection. To make that turn lane and make it to a right. But that's what's going on there. I mean, I use it 5 times a day, and that's what you see. My experience today, though, it was very interesting. To put a comment in there, driving down Bellevue, exactly at 5 o'clock, was I had a car in front of me, a car behind me, nobody, driving all the way down Bellevue from Concord Avenue. I'm going to take a right on Lindell. And then all of a sudden, I had a truck race pop by me on the left lane, only to have to slam on brakes and meet us all at the same time at the light at Lindell and Bellevue. And when I say that example, I use it 4, 5, 6 times a day, and that's the same experience I receive every day. I'm curious what other council members' experience is on that road.
Mr. Roberts, Jeff?
When I first looked at this, I had 2 questions in my mind. Overriding, is this proposal a safer application? And secondly, will it slow traffic? And I do believe it'll do both. It doesn't allow for passing, so you don't have that lane switching, and it also moves further away from the traffic lanes, the sidewalks. The sidewalks aren't moving, but the traffic lanes are further away. I am going to make one request, and I really like to get an answer tonight. On the downhill side of, I guess it'd be the east side of Bellevue as it approaches Greenville Street, I would like to see a sign. I don't know what you would call it, but it's similar to what you have in front of Anderson University, and it's a flashing yellow light. Your speed is whatever you're doing. Because that seems to me to be the problem area. It's that downhill slope, people get going fast. Mr. Whitfield is not wrong about his problems getting in and out of his house. I've experienced it myself. But that's my request.
Mr. Roberts, we can give you an answer to that. So the city, we've actually just internally have had this conversation and start implementing this. You see it in a lot of other communities, these flashing signs to alert you of what your speed is. I think I had a conversation with you earlier, and when I said I was looking at a driver, I don't think they're just not paying attention, passing you at 50 miles per hour, 55 and 35 a lot of times. But it brings awareness to that, and it's been successfully implemented in other communities and also in Anderson County on state roads. The process for that is simple. I mean, we put in a request to the state. They'll either do it or we can fund it ourselves and get a a permit to actually put the sign there. But we talked internally a couple months ago about rolling that out in several locations, and we talked about Reed Road, putting it on Reed Road and on both sides of Reed Road. And so just alert folks to what their speed is. And we do have a trailer that we do take out, and it records your speed, provides the data, also records your license plate when you pass it as well. Most people don't realize that, but we've observed, we've had a cop down the street, we've had people observe how does that sign impact the traffic, and just let it flow by alerting them to their speed. And it's been a very successful alert that people are alerted to it and will slow down when they see those signs. And so that's to answer in a long way, is that something, yes, we can explore. I would like to pursue that, and I think DOT would allow us to do that as they've been doing in other communities.
Could we make that a conditional, a condition upon approval of this restriping? I would like to see it. I'd like to have it
You could do that.
nailed down tonight.
You could do that.
Ms. Harvey?
I think mostly thanks for the people coming out to talk. I see a lot of friendly faces out there. Mr. McEwen, real quick, I remember when we talked about this at a retreat, and it's been a minute ago, but help me understand, so SCO DOT does a study, and they say, hey, this doesn't need to be 4 lanes anymore. But we might be wrong, so we're going to talk to the local municipality and make sure that we're not wrong. And so they talk to Maurice and Reggie and Mr. Gay and say, hey, and they say, no, you know, there's not as much traffic. So they're still going to pave the whole road.
Yes.
And they're going to restripe it.
Yes, it's underway. The paving process has started.
And now let's say that council decides to pass this resolution that is recommended by SCODOT that we do that, and that it's going to slow down traffic, and we're 100% wrong. Then we would just restripe it?
Yeah, so that's a good point. I've had that conversation with DOT in Columbia, their main traffic engineers. If you all of a sudden did have an explosion of growth and the use of that roadway, in this case, you're not moving curb lines. And so, yes, it could be removed and it could be restriped back to 4 lanes.
Let's
that's
say
a real possibility.
that all these experts that counted the cars and the 2% trucks and the 6,000 cars, and that it actually, you start being backed up from all the way from College Avenue to 81 to turn, which I don't think will happen, or that you'll from Sheldon Drive to up the hill, that's all backed up, and Mr. Whitfield doesn't have to worry about getting out because it's backed up traffic all the time. Then we could go to 4 lanes.
Can't get out.
Could go back to 4 lanes if we were totally wrong.
That's correct. You know, if the traffic engineer, something, the conditions change, I would say. You obviously have as Mr. Gay referenced, a 20-year history that he evaluated to concur with SCDOT's traffic engineer recommendations. If all that were to change and the growth pattern it carries traffic, you know, well in excess of what it's designed for it being 3 lanes, with counting the turn lane, you could revert it back.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Stewart?
Last question, comment. I know it was mentioned, I know we've talked about this at our retreats in the past, and I know a lot of times when SCDOT, they're getting ready to put in a roundabout or whatever, they do community meetings like in Teal-Hanna for different ones, you know, they're looking at. Was there any public process that's taking place as part of this? And we may have it, I just don't recall off the top of my head.
So this is a public meeting tonight, obviously, to hear, right?
This is the first, was there notification to the residents?
But
and that, I guess is what I'm saying.
To your point, when they make a new traffic pattern, such as they did it really on the roundabouts, because that was just new and people didn't, you know, understand them, they hadn't seen them before and that kind of thing. Is they'll put a public comment sign out there. In this case, they chose not to go that direction and just asked for the city's concurrence with their recommendations, knowing that our staff also concurred with their traffic engineers on the recommendations. And Mr. Strickland made a good point, I guess.
Well, and I will say too, you know, this recommendation does come from the 2014 Bike and Ped Plan, 2015 Bike Ped Plan. That had a robust public process as well. I think you heard a little bit of that tonight. The discussion about the road diet's been out there in the community for years and years and years. You know, the recommendations from that plan, this one included, a lot of them are really dependent on restriping and repaving. And you know, Bellevue just now came up as a project for repaving, which is, you know, there's no new money to restripe a road. So we're kind of leaning on that public process at that plan, during that plan, to really guide some of the recommendation and intentions from that time. So that's some additional public process that has gone into this decision. It didn't come out of nowhere, basically, I guess.
And I understand, I know, you know, we have a lot of plans on our shelves, and some of them we have 9-10 years ago, and some of them we have 2 years ago, and a lot of times, you know, things change from plan to plan. I just wanted to make sure that, and I know this is our council meeting is a public meeting, but, you know, a lot of times you would have a public hearing for, you know, comments like we would with the budget and things like that, and, you know, before you actually come here to vote on something. And I just want to make sure that process has been followed, you know, making sure that the community's had an opportunity.
Sure, no, I appreciate that. Well, and I will say too, if this resolution does pass tonight, we will certainly work with DOT in their schedule to make sure that we do maybe some additional social media, additional notification, education out there about what's coming, again, if this passes.
Dr. Thompson.
Well, listen to this. I often, most always, think about the residents who live there and their concerns. And we have a lot of plans that we're talking about tonight that might make this develop. We're not sure about it. We're hoping that this is going to work out. But I don't think we should just ignore the concerns of the people who've been in that community for years and years. They should have their say. We should listen to them. And even if we prove them wrong, and we don't know that, and prove ourselves right, we don't know that, but at least give them a chance to express themselves.
I would also say that I think several of us got emails this morning in favor of it too. Ms. Roberts.
Yeah, I just want to say something. I think aside from, my 4 years away for going to college, I think I've been on this road probably every day of my life. Cut through the way to school, and then then raising my children and taking them to school. So I'm on this road every single day of my life. And I appreciate what Dr. Thompson said, and I appreciate Mr. Whitfield's comments. And of course, I know where he lives, and I know him well. And, I also I have a hard time understanding how this road diet would not help calm things down. The studies prove that it does it. I can understand there possibly being maybe a backup of traffic, especially at your driveway, but also see where that's where the right where the double lanes start to take effect. So, and I guess being on it most of my life, I think I have been at your driveway once or twice, no doubt. But I'd say 99% of the time I've been halfway down to the next, the residents down below you. It shouldn't affect Bell Chase because they're not losing anything. In fact, they're gaining a dedicated turning lane in. Well, no, they're not, because it's the same right there. It's the same right there. I see that. But that being said, I'm not opposed to Dr. Thompson's comment about public opinion either. I am for this 100%. I think it would be very difficult to change my mind, but I'm not opposed to a continuation for public opinion. I'll just leave it at that.
Anything else?
What's the time frame you all working under, Davis?
So they currently have contractors out there doing work, but that's the deep patching that they can do under the current temperatures, and so it's not until it warms up just a bit. They plan on repaving it, and then of course the striping to follow. So it needs to be considered sooner than later. They haven't given us a hard timeline on that, but it's definitely something they've asked us to go ahead and consider and make a vote on.
Ms. Roberts.
I left out a couple of comments too. Growing up, riding to St. Joseph, every single day I believe there was an officer at the park. If y'all remember, he sat at the park for forever. In fact, he waved. He knew the cars that were going to slow down. He wasn't. I do think we can do our part to control with speed and enforcement. I would like to piggyback on Mr. Robertson at the park. There's no reason we can't incorporate some type of walkway. We did it across US 76 at Lindley Park. There's no reason we cannot incorporate some type of a walkway. There is no safe walkway across Bellevue from my neighborhood to the park. I also think that's another place to incorporate some type, whether it's temporary, moved around, I don't know, but speed device, because there are children present. There's more children now than there's ever been there. And that's a great park. It's underutilized from the way we focus on it. We've got a lot of potential there. So we might as well encourage, if we're doing a road diet, let's do a pedestrian diet too here, and let's get it fixed. Let's get some some connectivity and some crossways.
All good comments. Do we have a?
The gentleman has been raising his hand.
We turned it from that public part to our discussion right now. We've got to make a decision. Does anyone hear a couple of things? But first of all, do we have a motion to act on this resolution tonight.
And again, it goes back to timing. I mean, we meet again in what, 2 weeks?
Yes.
I mean, does punting today harm y'all? Getting the project done, you believe, possibly?
If it's not completed by the next meeting, it would harm us and being responsive to DOT and understand their project scope. So no, I mean, doesn't have to be final determination tonight.
What would be the mechanism for any sort of public notice between now and the next meeting for comments?
I mean, this is what this is for. The resolution is put it on the agenda. This is public agenda, publicly advertised. This is on air tonight. This is out there. All those other residents had the opportunity to attend tonight as well. I guess some chose not to. And so it's just up to council if you want to have another meeting or not.
You know, and I would say too about the public aspect of it. Somebody knew about it. So we had people show up today. The road diet has been out there for a while, since I've been on council. So, and we got a couple emails today. So, I mean, again, and it is a resolution that we're trying to complete for the DOT. So I don't think I hear anybody that thinks it's a bad idea. You know, I do hear the improvements that the Roberts have said. I think those are good things. Good comments on connectivity, kids getting to parks, and that type of thing. I think we just need to either say yes or no on this one.
The yes or no is
As far as the resolution, to act on the resolution.
I think yes or no, or we could table it till the next meeting. I guess that'd be 3, but, you know, or does it have to be a definitive yes or no? Because I don't want, you know, you say no, then give the response back to DOT, and then, you know, when the final outcome may be yes. I don't know. I'm just asking.
I don't know. I just think we kick it down the road for 2 weeks, and we're right back again, trying to figure out whether or not we're going to.
I would say,
yeah.
By saying no, provides your opinion to them. They still operate and own this roadway and have engineered it, and have it currently in the scope of work. So it would still be up to them to go one way or another with that as well.
Because we don't have the binding authority. They're just asking us to support the decision.
Correct.
Mayor, I would make a motion that we approve this with the caveats from both Councilman Roberts, both Jeff Roberts and John Roberts, of the speed sign and then also some walkways across to provide access across the road to the park.
I'll second that motion.
First by Mr. Steele, second by the Mayor Pro Tem. Let's go into discussion again.
You know, if we approve this, if the DOT bound to what our requests are, or would they hear it just like we're trying to hear their support? They would hear our support about what both Councilman Roberts have requested to go along with this. Because I think that'll be, if we're gonna move forward with it, we need to make sure that we do what they, you know, what has been suggested. That would be my ask.
Yeah, I mean, we work very closely with them, and the speed sign's not gonna be a problem. The walkways, they are hesitant on that, for a variety of their reasons, and sometimes we disagree with them a lot on those. So in Lindley Park's a really good example. We had to push pretty hard on some of those, and we pushed hard and were successful, and we had them restripe, signs put up and so forth, and we pushed hard recently, even on some different traffic plans there that ultimately got approved.
I think because it's going to a 3-lane section, that gives us some opportunity to do some good walkway design. Well, Mike and I will kind of spearhead working with DOT to make sure we get that done. Because even if it's not right across the street from the park, it can go
Connectivity
really
from
close.
one side to the
Yeah,
other.
we can
There
make
is not.
them happy and us happy, I think, very easily.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, so usually the fight on that is, or the disagreement on that is they like to do it at a controlled intersection, the crosswalk. And so that's why you always see them at a light or a controlled intersection. But it doesn't have to be a light, but just not mid-block. And unfortunately, in Lindley, we had to face that. Anderson University had to face mid-block, and there was a lot of discussions and push on that. But you're right, at a controlled intersection onto Bellevue.
We can, or even maybe a refuge island. We'll work on it, but I'm confident we can do something.
And Mr. Martinez?
Yeah, I fumbled this the first time, so maybe I can say it a little better the second time. I think, and I don't want to speak for everybody, I'll speak for myself. Mr. Whitfield, there was a comment that you made that probably gave me the biggest reservation when you said you wanted us to hear from the residents in that area.
Amen.
And I will tell you that I think as council members, we take that very seriously to listen to the residents that are in our area. I will tell you sometimes, as much as feedback is a gift, it does not always flow abundantly. And we have to make decisions as council members independently based on the way that we were trusted by our neighbors. Now, I can tell you that I have spoken specifically to a mobility group here in Anderson, and I know the need and the desire for more and more mobility and connectivity in this area. Similar to Mr. Roberts that lives in the area and several gentlemen that are here. I drive my children every morning to Concord Elementary School. Well, my wife does, but I occasionally take that duty up. And I can tell you, for me, safety is the most paramount conversation that I can think of. And for me, I have a lot of confidence for the speeders that are looking for a quicker way. If there is some congestion on Bellevue, that they will find themselves going down Lindale, they'll find themselves going down other avenues to get where they need to go. So I just want to clarify, my hesitation was not that I didn't believe in this road diet. I have a lot of confidence in that. But anytime someone makes a comment about listening to residents, I think that resonated with a lot of individuals here. So my faith in this project is not to speak against the residents, but just to lean into the confidence that I have in this project.
And if I may briefly follow up on that, I do also want to thank you for being part of the process, Mr. Whitfield. And I would note also, we had several other residents from the neighborhood who have come and spoken up in favor of the project. And there's always going to be that disagreement with people in the neighborhood. You know, my neighborhood is the Lindley Park neighborhood, and that park project was voted on actually before I took office. But I had plenty of people when those Capitol fences went up come and talk to me about the project. And I had a couple who said, I just think this is not a necessary project. I don't understand why the city's doing it. But I also had about twice as many come to me and say, I can't wait for this project to be completed. I think it's going to be great for our neighborhood. I think it's going to be a wonderful thing. So with all that, I appreciate you actually coming and making yourself known at the front end of the process of taking the time to speak to us and speak to the members of the council. But I think we also do have some input from the emails the mayor has received from other residents who have come today that are also supportive of it. And there's going to be probably continued disagreement within the neighborhood and within our city on a host of projects. So to me, I think as a whole, even what I've heard from many of our residents is we do want more mobility. We want the ability to bike. We want the ability to walk. We want the ability to access these green spaces. And we want safety in our traffic. And I think the information that's been presented to us as council tonight shows that this project, the way that DOT is going to do it, is going to fix a lot of those issues. And hopefully that's the case moving forward. And as Mr. Harbin said, if it doesn't, then, you know, we can go back to the drawing board and look at it at that point.
I want to clarify my position.
Wait a second. No. I mean, right now it's us.
Okay.
So I think probably one of the things, and we started this meeting with an update from the Upstate Alliance. It's been mentioned, I think Mr. Whitfield mentioned, there are a lot of people moving to this area. We talk about this constantly, about patterns and traffic patterns, and obviously the east-west connector did do something with the traffic pattern, but you know, here we are, you blink your eye and the east-west connector, we talk about other connection points and neighborhoods and so forth. So unfortunately, with the growth of our community, this isn't going to be the last time we talked about this, you know? So we had a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Our last item of new business, the request consideration of a change order for Fire Station 1 roof and envelope project. Mr. McEwen?
Okay, switching gears, as you're aware, we've had an ongoing capital project that was planned for Anderson Fire Station number 1, where we were just at for the two new fire trucks that were dedicated moments before the meeting at dedication ceremony. But so that project was in our capital model, was completed to date, is the majority of the project. So we had different roof types on that project. So it was a low slope roof on the majority of the building. So 75% of the building, so low slope roof, been completed. The envelope of the building, waterproofing the building. It was a complete waterproofing, what I call waterproofing the envelope. It includes a variety of a lot of work. Is completed, the paint's completed. We were about to move to the metal repairs. So initially the project scope included repairs to the metal roof. And then Hurricane Helene came along and took a huge section out of the part that you can definitely see as you're coming down to McDuffie. Since then, we had, and this you'll see on the sheet here, it says storm damage repair completed. We had the metal roof in that section removed, water shield put in place to protect the building as we were having insurance do an assessment on that. And so Daniel Atwell, who's been our consultant on this, he is a subcontractor to DP3, our architectural firm, who was leading the design part of the project, and then Daniel Atwell and his team of consultants, and then the contractor Seaborn. And so Seaborn did the damage assessment. So all of them met together, the design team with Seaborn. Of course, we were present, and agreed really the best pathway forward at this point is the complete replacement of the roof. And so Daniel is here tonight to answer any specific questions you have, because he knows buildings way more detailed than I could ever tell you. He does this every single day for commercial buildings. But he thankfully met, he went on site and our representation and met with our insurance adjusters to place our position of where we were pursuing replacing the roof to get a better settlement on this. That still is taking place. We do expect pretty significant insurance proceeds on this. But ultimately here, what we're recommending is the metal roof replacement, which is a 1.5 inch standing seam snap lock panel roof system. It'll be in the color Colonial Red to match, be completely replaced at this point. There's another remaining item that has been, we put on pause, was if you can remember the details, there was also some gutters. The metal gutters were going to be extended outward just a little bit from the building to enhance waterproofing of the building, along with upsizing. And so that was paused as well because we didn't know which direction we were heading with the metal roof. Again, our recommendation is pretty simple tonight, is just to replace the entire metal roof for $143,915. It would be a change order. I do want to mention, as this type of contract, this contract has flowed actually from the recreation complex where we did the same design team, everything. This is actually the exact same contract, and we moved that onto the same team to Fire Station 1. And this would just be a change order to the contract. Overall, though, we're expecting another $44,750 to be credited back to us for unused allowances. So any allowances that were built in the guaranteed maximum price would be credited back to us. And so in this case, we have $44,750 coming back to us. So 143 minus the $44,750 minus insurance proceeds, which is a little unknown at the moment. So we would still have a net coming out of the general fund balance. But again, the reserve fund, that's what it's for. This type of thing is to also provide insurance to ourselves in these type of situations with storms. And so we would have some of that coming out of our reserve fund. And that's my recommendation tonight, is to move forward with the metal roof replacement as a change order.
Thank you. Questions? Comments?
Quick question, Mr. Mayor, please.
Ms. Harvey?
So, and this might be one for my friends around the corner, Mr. Roberts. What is the life expectancy of this metal roof?
Great question. I'm going to ask Daniel to come up. He's an expert in this field. So Daniel Atwell, if you could come up and answer some of the questions for us. And he represents us, the owner.
The life expectancy of the metal roof system, it can range from 30 to 50. The Kynar finish is over the metal panel coil. So typically the life expectancy that I've seen has been 40 years. I made it right in the middle, that's what I said.
All right.
Mr. Roberts, Jeff?
When this first came up about the envelope project, I questioned whether we should replace it then, and that's still my opinion. It's already 25 years old approximately, I think, Daniel, correct?
Yes, sir.
So it's halfway through its life right now, or maybe a little more. And with these credits coming back in the insurance settlement, I'm all in favor of moving forward with this change order. So I move that we do so.
Have a first by Mr. Roberts.
Second.
Second by Mr. Horgan. Any time frame on the insurance?
Yeah, so we're really close to a settlement. We're expecting the check momentarily in the next couple of weeks. We had a batch of them, and they're kind of handling them all at one time for Hurricane Helene. So we expect to get that, I would say, within early part of February or the end of this month. And as far as timeline of construction, Seaborn told me, Daniel, if you can quote, I think he told me the third week or fourth week in January, maybe the fourth week in January, they would be back on site and get started.
I would just say that maybe at some point when we do get the insurance settlement, shoot something out communication-wise to us.
Just for clarification, this is the part that we were going to repaint, or?
It was being repaired and cleaned.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good deal. I remember Mr. Roberts' comments about all that. So.
Good. Any other questions? I got a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. And entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I have a first by Mr. Steele, second by Dr. Thompson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.